All right, so you found your perfect piece of property. You figured out the down payment, how to make payments on it, figured out how to make money while you're homesteading. At least, you know, if you've been following along and doing this step by step, you should already have a job lined up or some way to make money. But then comes the question of what do I need to take care of first when I get to the property? So here's a few things that you should take care of, you should look into. The first three is just like any other living situation: food, shelter, water. I would, say income as well because you need income to do everything else. But like I said, if you've been following along, doing the steps, you already have income. So the next thing we'll do is worry about shelter. Now, at first, you don't really need much. I mean, you can have, a travel trailer, a little shed to cabin, whatever. But we're talking like first things first. Some kind of roof over your head. In our case, we have a little pickup camper that we got. And we just took that, put it on the ground. That was our roof. In your case, if you have, a vehicle to sleep in, a van, maybe you got an RV, maybe one of the neighbors gave you a travel trailer. So we need to get that shelter taken care of first. And then you can move on to the other things. Because honestly, without shelter, without a place to put other things, you can't really get other things. Just like any other place you would move to, even if you're moving from one apartment to another in town, there's the shelter part. What's next? Turn on utilities, and where's the closest grocery store? So there's your water and your food. Another option, if the climate where you're at will allow this, is some kind of tent. And I'm not talking just like a little dome tent you find at Walmart. We're talking you're going to have to spend some money on this. You're going to have to go to, say, a military surplus store and buy a canvas, like wall tent that, they would have set up for any kind of weather. Well, pretty much. You get that, and you get the little wood stove that goes in there, and you can probably be set for quite a bit as long as, I mean, if you're in a desert area, similar to this or, you know, Nevada, Arizona, you're going to get high winds. So that's something you have to consider as well. So maybe start out with a tent and then build, some kind of shelter over it, something with 3 walls or something. You can get pretty creative. Or you can do like we did after we got here and put the pickup camper on the ground, because of those winds and like shaking back and forth. We decided we needed something better, more sturdy, and honestly bigger. So we were able to do some bartering with the neighbor, and we got a 30-foot travel trailer, which I mean, still kind of rocked a little bit in the wind. It was built in 1986, so it wasn't not the best insulation, but it was a roof over our head. And then after we got that, we actually put a roof over it as well, so that way even if its roof started leaking, it wouldn't be a big deal because we already have a roof over that, so water wouldn't get in there anyways. So now let's go on to water. If you're lucky, you have a source of water on your property already, whether it be, a stream, a pond, maybe a previously dug well. But of course, if there's a well, then if it's not like a hand dug well where you can, like roll the bucket down, and if it's an actual like 6-inch just hole in the ground, that's good. But you also have the added complication of trying to get the water out. And I do know that they have hand pumps out there, just pump water, but those things can get really expensive, especially if you're going down any number of, like over 100 feet or so. It can get pretty expensive. There are solar well pumps. That could be a viable option. You can piece it together off of Amazon, or we're gonna do like kind of more of a plug and play, just because like the warranty's there. And we're going to a place called RPS Pumps, and they'll just ship a whole kit. Pump, lines, solar, controller, battery, everything. Just, I mean, if you need a battery, sometimes there's setups that you don't need a battery where it just comes on when there's enough sunlight and fills the cistern, which is what we're going to do. Now, if you're not that lucky, you're going to have to go source water. Now, a good first step in doing that is calling your local, I call it government office, like for the local town that you're by. Reason why it's just say government office instead of a specific building is because the one in our closest town shares a building with the library. So I can't call it, like, anything special. And it's not the courthouse or whatever. But literally on one side, there's the library. And on the other side is the government office. You walk in and there's an assistant and there's the mayor. And we're just right there. So when we first got here, I had a chance to meet the mayor right off the bat. That was pretty neat. But anyways, try them, call the office, go down there, maybe like with the next town over, if it's in decent driving distance, call those towns, Google Maps. Well, actually, I don't know if they'll show up on Google Maps, like just public places where you can get water. I know in certain areas, there's like a water dispensing facility where you put in $1 or whatever, and then you fill up a tote, and there's your water, and fresh, clean, purified, all that stuff. Here, there's not something like that. Well, I think there is. I just found out earlier this year that there might be one, but it's like an hour away, like in the opposite direction of where I go every day. So I haven't really looked into it. After that, you could go check out some gas stations. Some of them could potentially let you fill up jugs of water or something like that, like carry jugs. I wouldn't go in there with like a 200-gallon IBC tote and, fill up water for, half an hour or whatever. But you can get some like 5-gallon jugs, 7-gallon jugs, take them in, fill them up. Now it's marked, most likely it's marked as non-potable water. But the reason why they do that is because it's by the fuel pumps. So I'll leave that there. Non-potable water. Now for potable water, I did notice at our local Walmart, around the back in the like refrigerator section, there's an actual like water dispensing, like filtered water dispensing thing. I don't know what to call it, but you have the water coolers with the 5-gallon jugs that go on them. You can fill up one of those things. I personally saw somebody take like those 7-gallon blue Walmart jugs in there, fill them up. I don't know how much it costs offhand. Probably like $1 or something. I wouldn't think it'd be that expensive, but that's an option for drinking water. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm just going to set up rainwater collection. I don't need to worry about any of that. But you do. You need water now. And I don't know about you, but at least this time of recording, it's getting into summertime. Everything here is drying out because it's not raining. So you're going to have to figure out water for the time being. You can set up rainwater catchment and do all that stuff, but we're talking like right now. Like right now you need it. So there's a couple of options there. Now another option could be an RV park. When we first got here, before we figured out anything else, that's what we were doing. We stayed at an RV park for a little bit, and we, have a good relationship with the owner, and we were told we can come back anytime to fill up our 200-gallon tank. Now, the drive there is, I want to say like 45 minutes. So we only did it a couple of times. And then he also offered us a place to dump our tank since we had just got the travel trailer. You know, we'd come in, $5. You fill up the 200-gallon tank, dump our waste tank. I mean, we have to figure out other things. There's a closer RV park that's, you know, just charges $10 a dump, and you know they don't offer any water or anything. But you know that's that now. But you know, if you build a good rapport with an RV park, you know there's potential getting water there. And if you're getting value out of this video so far, go ahead and hit that like button. If you know somebody that's, you know, wanting to go off grid and needs to figure this kind of stuff out, go ahead and share it with them. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos in this series. Now, the next thing that you need to figure out, and I mentioned it before, is food. Now, actually getting food is probably, you know, one of the easier things. Just go to the store and buy it. But the big issue there is how to store it. Now, if you're following along so far, you do have a little cooler and a solar panel, so you can store a little bit of food at a time, but you may have to go in every single day just to, you know, get food to eat that day, just because it's so small. So you need to figure out something else, you know, something bigger, to store the food that you know, maybe is easier to work with, because a cooler, you have to lift the top up and you have to dig around in there to find what you want. So what you want now is most likely going to be a refrigerator. And if you look on Craigslist or, you know, Facebook Marketplace, something like that, there's a chance you can get an older propane fridge. And as far as power goes, I mean, you have the solar panel, you can run it off of that, and then a propane tank. And it actually uses propane, you know, a little propane flame to get the chemical reaction going, and it refrigerates your food. You know, the propane fridge that we had in this thing, we used for several years before we decided to get rid of it. And it barely worked. You know, I had to take a wire and jumper it, you know, from one part of the control board to another to get the flame to come on, to get it to start working. And at that point in time, I mean, it's literally a manual. It's like you turn it on, let it get cold, or, you know, like plug it in, let it get cold, and take it off to turn it off. You know, because if you didn't turn it off, it would just freeze everything. So I played with that, got it to work like regular, and then, you know, back and forth. We eventually got a little refrigerator. And contrary to popular belief, older refrigerators and newer refrigerators really aren't that much different as far as power goes. If you have enough power to run a newer refrigerator, most likely you have enough power to run an older one. You know, we have one that was built, I think the date on it was 1998. And it takes, you know, 1 amp of power at 120 volts. So it's a 100-watt fridge. We have a brand new one that takes, I can't remember, but I actually put a kilowatt meter on it to see, and it takes about 75 watts. 75, 100. I mean, it's if you have power to run this one, you probably have power to run that one. Now, of course, it has to be in good condition, running right, because, you know, over time as things wear out, you know, it takes more power to run it. But if it's a good condition fridge, you should be just fine. And then another option that could be done fairly quickly and help you at least with fruits and vegetables is dig some kind of root cellar. Now, the root cellar, I'm not talking something big that you can walk in and, you know, it's like on shelves. It can be as simple as like a metal garbage can in the ground, or, you know, like maybe a freezer, you know, like a chest freezer in the ground. Because once you get down to about 3 feet or so, the temperature's pretty constant. It's like right around like 50, 55 degrees. It'll help keep, you know, veggies and fruit fresh. And then, of course, it'd be a big help once you start growing your own fruits and vegetables. You already have a place to store them. And speaking of, building stuff and root cellars and stuff like that, next video we're going to talk about some of the tools that you need when you first start out homesteading. So, of course, once again, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one. And until next time, keep kicking up dust. Faux shizzle.